This is Nathan Bowman with Draper Inc. We've configured our internal sun sensor. Now we're going to set up our wind speed sensor. By default, this is going to plug into one of the bottom two ports on the SSI. However, we do have RJ45 adapters for the top two ports if you need to use more than two sensors. So don't worry about that. Each SSI can accommodate up to 4 sensors. It just may require an adapter. So to set up the wind speed sensor, I'm going to go ahead and connect that into sensor port number 3. And unlike the internal sun sensor, this will not configure itself, so we have to configure this one manually. Sensor is plugged in. I'm now going to go into my sensor menu options by hitting enter, getting the configuration screen, and I'm going to select sensors. From here, I know that I'm plugged into sensor port 3, so I'm going to use my down arrow to navigate to sensor 3, hit enter. From here, it is wiped clean because the sensor does not configure itself, so we're going to set this up. Our wind speed sensor model is C156.278, so I select that, hit enter. From there, it will automatically name it as a wind sensor, and it determines that it is a wind sensor simply by the part number. So it's going to set up the baseline parameters. We just need to adjust those per project specifications. So we have the model, we have the name. If you want this to be Wind 2 or something like that, you would simply select, navigate down to name, hit enter, highlight this, and then you can change the numerical value for what the wind sensor number is. I'm going to leave this at 1. Now I'm going to navigate down to parameters and hit enter again. From here, you have your parameters that can be configured for the wind speed sensor. By default, it is going to set it to override open. More often than not, that is what the wind speed sensor is going to be for, is going to be to retract shades in high wind conditions to avoid damage. So typically the override open is what we want it to stay at. However, if you're working with specialty products such as Venetian blinds, louvers, something like that, it may be different, so we'll run through those. Override open is the default. If we hit enter and highlight that, we can navigate through the various parameters. Override tilt, those are going to be for your Venetian blinds, louvers. Override closed would just mean that the external or exterior product would fully deploy, which is typically opposite of what you'd want it to do in high wind. And then back to override open. So we want this to stay at override open, and the level is at 13.5 miles per hour, which is fine. That's adjustable based on the product that you're installing in the manufacturer's recommendation for wind speed settings. The wind delay, very similar to the cloud and sun delay with the sensor. Wind delay is how long we want the shades to wait before they retract due to wind. So we have that set to 0 seconds because we want the shades or the exterior product to instantaneously retract anytime that the wind threshold level is exceeded. So we have that set to 0. That is configurable based on project specifications. It is my recommendation that you leave that at 0, so it is an instantaneous movement to avoid damage. The calm delay is set up for 900 seconds. This is just another threshold to determine if it is safe to deploy the shades. So this means that the wind speed is going to have to be below the threshold for 900 seconds or 15 minutes before the shades will deploy again. If the wind speed falls below the threshold for 14 minutes and 52 seconds and then immediately exceeds it, they will not deploy again. They will stay retracted. Okay, we have our parameters set up. Now we need to set up our group. If you remember, we set up our motor in groups 1, 2, and 4, and we have already assigned our internal sun sensor to group 1. We can assign this wind sensor to that same group if we want, or we can assign it to any other groups. Right now it's set up as a master. I do not want it set up as a master, so to change that, I'm going to hit enter. Again, you can leave it as master. You can set it as a custom by working through each motor one by one as they jog up and down and doing the add skip method, or we can select one of the global groups that we've already programmed into the motor. I'm going to go ahead and put this motor or this sensor into global group 2 since this motor is part of that group. I'm going to navigate down to global group 2, hit enter, and it's going to save. Perfect. I can see that it is set up with a wind sensor. Wind 1, my parameters are set, and we are set up to control global group 2. Thanks for watching. If you have any more questions or concerns, please contact Draper Technical Support at 1-800-238-7999 and select option 3.